I want to welcome everybody to our April. And actually, can everyone just hit mute? Or I'm sure I can do it too. This is where I should always make Vanessa a co-host because she's the master of Zoom. Okay, so just to get us started off today, I have just one little announcement, and then we can get started. And today we're going to be talking about how to talk about body talk, and it's going to be really good. We're going to have Vanessa talk about introducing it to people that haven't heard of it. I'm going to talk about translating a session as it comes up, and Madoc's going to talk about tying it all together and leaving people with something that they can kind of hook into and be like, oh, that's what we did, and all of these pieces are really critical for a lasting impression of a body talk session. But before we get into all that, I'm going to just take a few minutes and first of all, welcome all of you that are here today. And we're recording this, and thanks to Diana, we now have as a benefit of membership, we do have, we're building up the resource library. So recordings from these little mini trainings go into the resource library. So you can go and look them up again. And as people come in, we'll have more and more material to help people grow their practices. So thanks to everybody for being part of that. I have one little announcement I just want to share while I have everyone here. And that is that the next Body Talk Access class is this Saturday in Seattle at the Mind Body Sanctuary. Ms. Diana Gard, woo, instructor, and I'm coordinating for her, so I get to be part of it too. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Diana, somebody else just signed up. She basically told me she's trying to sign up whenever she was having trouble with the website, but she's coming. So the room is getting to be full, but we can definitely fit a few more people. We've got, I think that's 9. So so if you know anyone or you yourself want to come, and I will just say as an aside that it just occurred to me that access is a nervous system reset, which is quite the buzzword lately, but essentially every single part of it resets your nervous system. And around here, we need a lot of, anyway, so this Saturday, 10 to 5, if you want more information, you know where to find me. Does anyone else have any other announcements that we want to share while we're all together for our Body Talk gang? Unmute, Vanessa.
So also on the line of upcoming courses, Robin, I'll send it to you through the course of this week. So please keep an eye on your inboxes for the advanced modules that are coming, that are going to be online in June, August, and October, module 3, 6, and 9. The dates I'll send to Robin to send out in newsletter format in the next couple of days. So please just keep your eyes open for that. And it's another South African instructor.
And CC me so I can put those on the website.
Okay, perfect. I will do. Thank you, Diana.
Yeah, Gail Fox was a big hit. So I'm looking forward to some more getting brought to us. Okay, well, let's just jump in then and start talking here. So we are, like I say, we're going to share, have a little panel, Vanessa, and then me, and then Madoc, and we're just going to talk about really the 3 breakout points of talking about body talk. And we will start with Vanessa because she's got her world famous way of sharing body talk. Like, oh my God, she gets people to check the stuff out that would not otherwise, probably, except for she is so good at talking about it. So take it away, Vanessa. Start us off.
Okay, so I'll start by telling you why and how we started talking about it like this, because we can all speak to people that are like-minded about body talk and about energy medicine and about quantum physics. You can speak to like-minded people, but it's the people that are not like-minded where we have the issues. And those are the people that we want to come to our practices, because those are the people who haven't had this type of work before that will see results like they've never seen before. And I've seen it with there is not one of my US clients that knew anything about body talk before they came to see me, not one. and unless they were practitioners like yourselves that I've done swap sessions with. But other than that, there's been nobody. So I have changed it a little bit here, but I'm going to give you what I did. And the reason we developed it was because we were going into corporate wellness days, and the corporate world is not going to listen to you speaking about energy medicine and quantum physics and all of this. They want to know where the science is behind it. They want to know how this all comes together and how it's going to help them, not all the woo-woo side of things. So we would be standing in I'll use the first wellness day we did was KPMG, and we had a line of 175 people that were coming for demo sessions. We would do 15-minute sessions on these people, and but we needed to explain it to them because they wanted to know what it was. So how do you explain it without sounding like you've come from another planet and are now trying to fix this planet? So the way that we explained it was as such. So I'm just going to literally just say it as we said it when somebody came up to us and said, so what is this BodyTalk thing you've got here? Because we did have banners that would give, what it can help with, and but nothing about how it works. And that's what people wanted to know. So we would start off by saying it was developed about 30 years ago. And that's where people go, wow, 30 years ago and nobody knows about it. You go, well, yeah. So that's why we're building awareness of it. And it was developed by a gentleman by the name of Dr. John Feldheim. He was diagnosed with the Epstein-Barr virus. The Epstein-Barr virus was the old, what people understand it as, in the US, people understand Epstein-Barr, but in South Africa, they didn't. They knew it as yuppie flu. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the term yuppie flu. That's how they knew it. It's basically the stress virus. And it shouldn't kill you. But because of the extensive damage it had done to his liver, he was given a couple of months to live. It was at this point that he developed the system, and it's founded on the principle that our body knows how to heal itself. For example, when you cut yourself, you don't tell your body what to do. Your body knows how to heal that cut. The inside of our bodies are exactly the same. They know how to heal themselves, but with all the work stress, home stress, bad eating habits, all the chemicals in our food, all the chemicals in our medication, and all of the internal and external stresses that we all experience every day, we cause a miscommunication within our cells and systems. We have 50 trillion cells and 11 body systems that are constantly in communication with each other. And when there's a communication breakdown, that's when we get sick. So we use the iceberg as an analogy. We go to the doctor at the tip of the iceberg when you've got symptoms, and he'll give you something and you'll be fine for a week, a month, 6 weeks, 2 months, but then you'll be back there with the same thing or something else. And that's because you're not addressing the other 90% of the iceberg, which is the root cause of what's really going on inside your body. So we've been trained as practitioners, we've been trained through what we call neuromuscular biofeedback, which is basically a yes-no response from the client's body that guides us through an extensive protocol chart that goes into your organs, your endocrines, your body parts, your muscles, your environment, body chemistry. We can pick up viruses, fungi, bacteria. The client's body will tell us where the miscommunication is. And then we've got a series of non-invasive balancing techniques that remind the body how to heal itself. And then I'll often have people saying, so how does it do that? What do you do? And then this is where I started adapting it a little bit, because these are questions that I've had now. And then I will use the 3 brains. I will say, it's now scientifically proven we have 3 brains, a head brain, a heart brain, and a gut brain. So it's the reconnection of those. Think of your body as a computer. We are like a human computer, and it's basically reconnecting those lines and setting up a computer program so that your body knows where it needs to reconnect. And by doing that, your body starts being able to heal itself. So that's where that's the blurb that I use for introducing it. But then what I've now realized is people want to know when, how, and why they need to use it. So what I've started doing, and this came through all my BNI meetings that I've had, and I've started talking about how emotions affect the body. I'm going to read you one of my BNI. I'm first going to read you the one that I did, which is a little bit different because Robin, you will know, and anyone else who has sat through a BNI meeting will know, you've only got 35 to 60 seconds to speak about it. That's what you have in a BNI meeting. So sometimes if you're in an elevator, you also only have that amount of time to speak about it. So this is what I said in 35 seconds. So luckily I do speak fast. I think I went over time, but that's okay. So this was the one that I did about the BodyTalk system. The BodyTalk system is a blend of Western medical knowledge, Chinese medicine, and cutting-edge quantum physics that allows the body's energy systems to be resynchronized so that they can operate as nature intended. Each system, cell, and atom is in constant communication with each other. Through exposure to the stresses of day-to-day life, these lines of communication can become compromised or disconnected, leading to a decline in physical, emotional, and/or mental well-being. Reconnecting these lines of communication enables the body to function optimally, thus repairing and preventing dis-ease and rapidly accelerating the healing process. In this way, BodyTalk stimulates the body's innate ability to balance and heal itself on all levels. Okay, so that is the one. That was the introduction that I did for BNI. And then what I started doing is I've started breaking it down a little bit into how emotions affect the body. So I'm going to read you this one. This was another one I did. This one sometimes there'll be a star of the week and I won that, so I've had a few extra seconds to speak. So this one was about emotions. I said, did you know fear is stored in our kidneys, bladder, trapezius, and psoas muscles and can result in ulcers, UTIs, some cancers, and even sciatica. Guilt is stored in the gallbladder, hips, and bones and can cause hip problems, migraines, and weight problems. Anger is stored in the liver, ligaments, and the rhomboid muscles and can cause hypertension, inflammation, psoriasis, tumors, and pneumonia. Chronic stress can result in strokes, seizures, heart attacks, immune system disorders, and many more. Scientifically, emotions can only last 90 seconds in the body. It's when we choose to hold on to them that we start creating chaos in our bodies. There are healthy ways to release these emotions and stress before they manifest as physical or mental illness. And then I just carried on with the BNI little blurb, but that was how I spoke about emotions in the body. So that just gives you a bit of an idea that you can take. I will send those to you as well, Robin, those two little things that I did, and then people can adapt them and change it and, do whatever they want to do with it. But those have all worked very well. Since I've been breaking it down into the emotional side of things and speaking about BodyTalk like that, I think in the last month, I've had about 15 referrals just from BNI, not directly from BNI, but from their families and friends and things like that, when they start understanding that some of the dis-ease that they're sitting with can actually be shifted just by letting go of the emotional crap that they're holding on to. So there we go. That's me. There we go.
Dang. I'm like, I need all of that. That's yes. Every time Vanessa shares her strategy for talking about this, every time I'm like, I just need to write every single word of this down. But I'm just going to just reflect that it's the groundedness that really strikes me. It's as long as I've been doing this work, and it's been a long time, I do revert to just talking about quantum physics and the energies and all this. And it's like, no, the reality is people's bodies change, people's emotions change, that this was built from somebody's personal circumstance of being sick and needing to find a solution. And he found a solution and built a system. So that is useful. Does anybody have any questions for Vanessa? And we'll have another
question, Vanessa. Was that blurb that you were sharing that you used to do at wellness days, was that a blurb that a group of you came up with and then all of you were using the same blurb, or was it that was your personal one? Or I'm just curious about how.
Yeah, it was my personal one, but then there were only 3 of us at the wellness days right in the beginning. So it was my personal one, and they then adapted. So what they asked me to do for SABA, the South African Body Talk Association, was to do a similar thing, because what we would have at the wellness days is we would have students coming in, and students wouldn't be able to understand. So we had 3 practitioners and then we had students. So I did that one for the students to be able to speak about it. And then the other practitioners used it, but they adapted it to their own way.
It's a good one. I like it. It's really, I love the way you talk about the systems and the communication and stress causing communication. It's good. Are you going to share that one with the group as well? Yeah, that's
I will.
Thank
I
you.
will type that. I'll send the 3. I'll type the first one, and then I've got the other 2 typed already, and I'll just send them all to Robin, and she can just share them in the feedback from the Zoom.
It's really helpful to be able to adapt those things and share, because it is hard to talk about it when you first start.
It is.
How do you feel about us adapting that for website copy for our own websites?
The thing is, and this is something that I have learned from the many courses that I've taken with instructors, one of them being Dale, is that information's not mine. I manscape that shit. It's not mine.
Because I'm like, I want to put that in my website description.
Yeah, I have no problem. It's not mine. It's from universe.
Okay, I will, between Vanessa and I, just a promise to the group here, I will see to it that we've got a written transcript of both of those little blurbs, because they're really powerful, so that we can adapt them to our own verbal and written communications, because.
Thank you for being so generous with it, Vanessa.
It's a pleasure. Like I say, it's the universe needs me to share it. We need to get this message out there, man.
This is why we love her. Oh, good. Here we got one more person. Okay, any other questions for Vanessa before we go to me and my stage fright?
You could never have stage fright if you tried.
Well, okay. And again, we'll open up for some Q&A too, after all 3 of us have shared. So you'll have another chance. And if you sit there thinking, just make a little note, you'll have another chance to ask. But so now I'm going to talk a little bit about I'm going to talk a little bit from my experience of translating the sessions as we go along. And I feel like this is a bit of an art form that takes some practice. And so I'm just going to start from there. And I'm also going to say that this is, I will share my experience, kind of like the way that Vanessa shared hers. And so the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to momentarily get a link from you guys. So we're going to use the chat function in a minute, just so that I don't have something pre-prepared, because I don't want to have something pre-prepared, because I want to just demo how it shows up for me, in the hopes that it's useful. But a couple of things I want to say is, especially when we're like, I've been taking a bunch of the advanced classes, and you hear a lot, and it's true, that you don't want to confuse your client and sit there and use a bunch of jargon that doesn't make any sense to them. And that is true. However, what I tend to do is I will say, I also want to familiarize people with body talk language. So for me, it doesn't work just to say, okay, we're talking, this is talking to that. Like, I'm not going to dumb it down that much. The people I work with are smart, and I expect them to be able to keep up with the English language. And so it's my responsibility to make sure that what I'm talking about is understood to the best of my ability, but I'm not going to treat people like they're dumb, because they're not. So what I tend to do is I'll say the body talk term is a matrix, and a matrix is this, or I'll say, we're going to work with the liver. And then the idea that we're working with here is that the idea that the liver holds certain kinds of, or is good at dealing with certain kinds of consciousness, like the liver is really good at managing anger. So I'll start with the big concept, and then do my best to break it into regular language, because I see myself when I'm sharing what's going on. First of all, I see that I'm translating this person's body. So I want, to the greatest extent possible, for the person to have an opportunity to see what I see. And if I just say, well, we're working with your liver, I feel like I'm leaving them out of a lot of the equation. So again, this is just how I do it. And I understand that Everybody's different, but that's how I do it. So I almost always say, okay, we're going to use a tool in a BodyTalk. We call something like, that we call a Seedry, and a Seedry does this, Seedry, make sure you're fully nourished, and it makes sure that we've got, maybe files that are fragmented and creating clutter in the system. We're going to clear those out. We're going to make sure that the system remembers where it belongs with the rest of the body. And that's what we call a Seedry. So I use those kind of terms because I want people to know this language. And when I've had clients for a long period of time, then I don't have to keep saying it over and over. They can I'd be like, okay, we're doing a matrix in your liver. They go, great. Because I've introduced them to the vocabulary. So that said, so I do use vocabulary when I'm describing it, but then you have to make sure that the person understands it. And humans speak in stories. And the other thing I want to sort of just take a moment with is, I am, of course, well versed in the fact that in BodyTalk, we want to be clearing stories. We don't want to be adding stories. We want to be getting fewer and fewer stories. We want to be taking the paint off the light bulb. We've all seen that in the various classes. It's our big metaphor. So I understand, I use stories judiciously. Like, we don't want to, I am careful not to do my best not to proclaim anything, because people will potentially attach. But that said, stories is how humans learn. So what I do try to do as we're going along is just kind of make a picture for people. So if I just say your heart is talking to your liver, nobody's going to remember that. But if I say we're connecting the center of your being that's best at relationship with the part of your body that's best at managing anger, and anger is the energy that comes up when we need to make a change. So we're looking at making it easier to create change through heart-centered relationship. And people go, oh, okay, that kind of thing. But anyway, so just to say, I do use BodyTalk vocabulary, and I do sort of just come at my translations from the perspective of making a package, making sense of what I aim for. I mean, sometimes it's impossible, sometimes you get some kind of crazy formula. It's just like, well, your body knows what this is about. But when it's possible, I do try to give people something to hold on to, and because it makes it easier for them to know what changed. And it makes it easier for them to talk about what happened. It just comes back to me over time, like, oh, you saw my sister and you worked on her connecting, relationships and anger, that nobody's gonna, or I don't know anyone that just, oh, you linked my heart and my liver and I feel so different now. You know what I mean? Like, we just don't think that way. We think in terms of how things show up for us in our life. So that is the sort of lens that I use, my filter, if you will. So I just wanted to play for a minute and just kind of put a few things together and sort of just show you how it shows up for me. So if you would be so kind, would somebody throw an item in the chat? And then we'll link the item. But first we'll start with an item. Beard. Oh boy. Okay. And then let's link it. So somebody give me another item. Beard to toes. Okay. And then just for fun, somebody give me an orientation on toes. Okay. Father-in-law. Okay. All right. So let's say this link is I'm linking your beard to your toes, oriented to your workplace, with a satellite of your father-in-law. So, you guys, that's why I had stage right. I was like, Robin, what are you doing? You're going to throw yourself right into the fire. Okay. So this is maybe how I would address something like this. So a beard, like, so we're going to fill in the blanks a little bit, but let's just say that our person doesn't want to shave his beard, but he's about to go work in a corporate work environment where they expect people to be clean shaven and wear a button-up shirt. But our client has a beard and his hair is a little bit longer and he's here, and I'm talking to him and he's wearing like a Harley Davidson t-shirt, let's just say, okay? So, and so then I would say beard might mean something about his identity, right? And then toes might be about, feet moving forward, stability, anchoring. And so how is he going to be anchored and stable in the workplace when he's got this identity of being a bearded Harley Davidson guy? And then he's got a satellite going around him of his father-in-law, and his father-in-law wants him to be a straight cut guy, so he'll take good care of his wife, the father-in-law's daughter. So let's just say that that is the package that I'm working with. So I might say to him, okay, so we're going to do some work around creating some neutrality around, maybe your ideas of your identity related to your beard and whether you are who you are, whether or not you have your beard. And we're going to help your body to anchor into the new workplace. And that's kind of showing up in your toes. Like, let's just say he's got like, he broke his toe or something like on the first day of work, So we're going to help your body get more aware of the whole set of circumstances so that you can be in the best possible state for resilience and balance in this workplace that you're starting in. And we're going to just take into account the influence of your father-in-law and just bring it into the whole picture so that what we're aiming for is to be as spacious and generous as possible in your life, so that you have the most choice possible in your life so that you can be in this workplace and be yourself. And then we tap that out. That's how I make that shit up. So let's just do one more, just so that we can just play with it. But I hope that you see, like, I'm making this up completely out of my head. There is no real person here, but what I'm looking for are the tie-ins. And I'm looking for how these pieces are going to be valuable to the person. And I'm really feeling into it. And I should say, this is very important, that I also am muscle checking as I'm going along. Like, I'm like, do I have this right before I say this to the person? And I will muscle test. And if I don't, then I revise, like, oh, hold on, I think I might understand this, but I'm going to listen here. So I do my best to be accurate in my translation as much as possible. So let's just throw out one more. Let's do another one. Let's do another item. Somebody give me an item. Give me an item with a definition. Okay, we got occiput to sacrum. That's a good one. And then, okay, and then how about I get a definition of whatever you want, any kind of definition. Defined by fear. Okay, that's a great one, actually. I love that one, has come up for me. All right, so we'll just do this one. So let's just say now I'm doing a link. I will pause and say, I try to gather all the information of a formula or, a segment of the formula before translating it. So I'll be like, okay, I'm going to pull this, and then we're okay. So now we got some, I've got your occiput, your sacrum. Looks like we're linking those. There's a little bit more. Okay, so we've got something about, there's definition. There's something about fear. Is there anything else? Muscle testing. Okay, no, that's our link, and then I'll translate. And the first one, okay, we got something about your beard. Okay, it's linking toes. So there's a little bit more on the toes. It's oriented to your workplace. Okay, there's a little bit more about all of this. Your father-in-law, and I might or may not say is a satellite, whatever, depending on the client and the circumstance. But okay, now I have all the information. So let me translate. Like, I gather the formula first, and then try to make a story out of it for the most part. So here we are. We have a link: occiput to sacrum defined by fear. I actually learned this from our people in the group. I think I want to give credit where it's due, but I picked this up somewhere in Jan's class, that occiput to sacrum, that balance of occiput to sacrum holds the vagus nerve. And it is a parasympathetic, it potentially can stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system to bring that pathway from your occipital bone to your sacral bone and that whole length of your spine. So when you're doing an occiput to sacrum balance, chances are good that you are soothing the body. It also, this I know I picked up at Jan's class, and if the person is here who said it, then thank you, that infants are held by occiput and sacrum. So, okay. So when we do this occiput sacrum link, it's again, chances are great that it's going to be activating in the body to remember that soothing nurturing, supported holding, that we hold it in our body, because infants are held that way. So I might say to the client, okay, so this is, chances are good that this is going to be really soothing and supportive to your nervous system, especially the part of your nervous system that is in charge of rest and digest, calming you down, bringing you into the healing state. This is defined by fear. Fear has come up in this. So we are going to just address, we're gonna ask your body to notice where it's holding fear between the occiput and sacrum, and to address that state, and either to, I mean, kind of depending on maybe the way the session's going, you know, to either release the fear, or to ask this part of your nervous system to become more active because fear is present. But basically, an occiput to sacrum defined by fear is going to calm somebody down. It's going to address the fear that's being held in the body. So that's the way I would say that one. And this kind of thing is fun, and I feel like we could go all day, but I don't, you know, I don't want to take everybody's time all day. So does anyone, I will open it up for like questions, comments, or if you have specifically something that you want me and or the group to like try to translate, if you've like had a client recently or anything, then we can try to do that too in this portion of the program, translating the sessions as they're unfolding. So any questions or comments or thoughts? Kate.
I just had a quick question. You were saying that as you're gathering the formula before you translate, and so when you're just like, okay, so we're looking at your beard and we're looking at your toes, are you saying that out loud?
A lot of times I am. Yeah. And that's just me. And that's partly because that helps me remember. If I try to hold it all in my brain, then I start to get a little discombobulated. But if I say it out loud, it's a mnemonic for me. So, but I will tell people like, okay, I'm just talking out loud. Like, don't listen to me yet. Okay, so now we have it. And this is, now let me try to translate this for you. But I know other people, even other people here, do it all in their head and then sum up. Is that how you do it, Ellen?
One of the things I remember, you know, you watch John Beltime and he'll just tap your head 3 minutes later and you're magically cured, and he'll give a couple of links. But one of the things I wanted to celebrate Vanessa and Robin's for some of our new practitioners and even our old ones is because we're always trying to explain this amazing system. It's one cell met one cell in the middle of the night. And I live in a culture where we're all seeking doctors, chiropractors, everybody else to tell us how to heal. We celebrate as BodyTalk practitioners that we know how to heal. Like Vanessa says, our body does that. So that translates into my sessions. I show them the chart, I show them the exploring procedure, and I'm going, this is a priority-based system, and you're the expert. So my languaging when I'm doing the session, you know, and they can, if I'm live or they can see me test, I'm explaining the session. The top priority for you today is, gosh, we're going to your neck. And it's defined by this, and it's oriented to this story. And I'm engaging. I'm going, you know, what just happened? What's this story 10 years ago about your son? And so if I go back, the next priority, you know, they are so excited because it's like a sleuth. It's like Clue. Where are we going next? And they can see us with the muscle testing, you guys. She's not doing the work. I'm doing my own session. And so when you engage with the session, I've been to practitioners and they're just all muscle testing. They don't say a thing. I miss the engagement. And Dr. Beltime and some of the top practitioners, the new Mod 5 teacher, the old, you know, instructors would say, if you can get the client engaged in the story, the shifts happen like that. Because we want to explain. Mindscape for Body Talkers rewrote, because I would say, gosh, you know what, we're going to the fifth vertebrae. I'd get all clinical in my head and say we're linking and we're communicating. But once we can tell them the story, well, it looks like, and get more of a visual, they can engage. Be sure you language. If I'm working on a doctor, boy, I'm right in there. We're the mitochondria of your liver cells, because they understand that detail and their body is telling me that. If I've got some person that hasn't gone through first grade and they're a cute farmer in rural Idaho, gosh, you know what? It's a very session tailored to their language and where they're at. The beauty of BodyTalk is that the top scientists on the planet can reroute. You work with Laura, the PhD epigenetic specialist. She's right there in the on-off switches. Or you go to the most humble German farmer and they don't know what, I mean, it's just so unique for the practitioner. The other thing I wanted to say in explaining it is always remember that it's a relationship between you and your client. You know, 4 or 5 of us are advanced practitioners on here. If we do the same client at the same time, we're going to get different sessions because it's a relationship. And trust, I used to tell those new Mod 1 tours, if it's coming up for you, it's in your head. You know, and so to trust that beauty synchronization and the synergy that happens, you know, when me and Vanessa get together, we're off in Mindscape. You know, we've intertwined everything because it's a connection. Me and Robin, we were in Washington when it was so cool to see the synchronization. Me and Diana, we're way off the charts because of who we are. Trust that partnershiping between who the two of you are, so the perfect session will come in terms of the relationship. But always teach them, gosh, I'm not doing the session, it's a priority. I'm a little stuck, my clients. So, you know, I have a lot of degrees and letters behind my name. But I say, gosh, I don't understand this. Your body's trying to tell me. And they go, oh my gosh, do you believe it? 3 weeks ago, I had this huge fight over my husband because my daughter's, I mean, they're telling you and they become the expert. So in my clinical or in my practice, I'm always, you're the expert. What does your body want to balance and prioritize? And so we're teaching them and they go, gosh, we got this weird practitioner. I'm the expert. And they come back because they want to know what the next priority is.
Okay, thank you. I want you guys to know, first of all, Katie, I'll get you in 1 second, that I asked Ellen to do this middle part, but Ellen is getting over pneumonia and you didn't think you would be able to do it without coughing and you just did. So, okay, Katie, you had your hand up.
I was just wondering if you could take a stab at translating a recent session I did.
Let's give it to Ellen.
Okay. So it was 2 items. First item was lymph in the left axilla, anchored by the zygoma, defined by the consciousness of digesting life, also defined by loss, grief, specifically loss, with a subsession of general environment, relationship at work with coworkers, which was entering the gut and affecting the navel. Tell me when you're ready for the second item. So then that was linked to pancreatic reflex point, defined by sight and the specifically clear-sightedness, also defined by anger with the quality of being withdrawn was the word, and oriented to worry and work.
Okay, so the lymph in the left axilla linked to the zygoma bone. So John Beltime reminds us that we hold our deepest grief and our deepest hurts under our armpits, especially on the left-hand side. It's your greatest heartache. You're never going to let anybody look underneath your armpits, that you're holding it tight to your heart, right? More than likely what you're addressing is some precancerous cells because you had lymphatic congestion. Mod 5 teaches you about the importance of the lymph system moving. So the top priority for her was that lymphatic system in that left axilla, linking to the zygoma. The zygoma is going to be your anchoring bone. So it's going to get that system to say, hey, you're really in Hawaii on a vacation. You need to be back doing your job, right? So the dignity of life and the loss, that makes perfect sense because we hold some of our greatest loss. The dignity of life, were they dealing with dying issues either for themselves or somebody else? They look like they're
digesting life.
Digesting.
So
Digesting
and yeah,
life,
her father died in November.
Yeah, so we see that when I go in and talk to all my irritable bowel and my GI problems, I kind of got a reputation for this at Utah Valley because they're always getting stomach issues and digestion issues if a loss happens. And it usually starts because the physiology can't keep up with the emotion of grief, right? So that was your digestion. So beautiful session. That in and of itself makes me cry, and that you could have gone home on that one alone. they would have had significant training future. They won't be in a cancer treatment center because of those the lymphatic system on that, on your mod 5. That subsession on general environment. So the gut to navel, navel's about centeredness and connectedness, the consciousness of where it all began, right? A gut, you're back into that digestion. You're trying to figure, they can't sort out their life. More than likely, for me, it's going back the first 2 years of life. They may have had some issues in their home or in their family life where they didn't learn how to process their emotions through. Defined by sight, uncleared sightedness. Dr. Beltime talks about that at our very beginning in the first and second house. Diana kind of helped me out. You're clearing your vision. Our 5 senses tell us what our vision is and how we interpret the world. Well, we put on the masks and this happens and dad hits mom and we get distortions and filters in our consciousness, right? So by defining that by sight, you're changing her perception. And when you change people's perception, if you get 5 senses and the definition of sight and clear that sightedness, you're going back to where one cell met one cell. Even the prenatal memories are going to be cleared by clearing out. Trauma teaches you about blueprint. You're taking them back to being who they came here to be. The worry at work, that's our anchor, our foundation is what we do for work. Money coming in, our self-worth. And so again, if she's having a tough time, with the grief and understanding who she is at that primary matrix of who they are, then worry at work. Will I be accepted? Will I have a job? Will I be able to perform? That will come out a lot. Those are some thoughts, just 2 seconds into it, that come to my mind as I look at the client, as you came up with those links. Beautiful session. One of the beautiful things that I love that some of our other practitioners will say, I watch those mod 1-2 that do an occiput of the sacrum link to belly button. John says that mod 1-2, you're doing those links, but because it's a matrix system, you're finding the deep trauma links. You're running seedries. You're finding the definition of consciousness. It's coming in, even though in your awareness, we're just doing left axilla, and so beautiful, beautiful session.
Okay. Wait, we have another question from Vicky.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on the talk to clients or not talk to clients. I actually offer. Would you like to lay there and rest? Or would you like to hear me kind of talk out loud and work through your formula? And 90% of the time they want the formula. Which I much more enjoy, like Ellen does too. Like, yeah, let's get the story. I'm also thinking like Diana and Katie doing these just immediate formulas and working with our study group. Because I know for Sherry and Becky, they're getting their formulas, but we've been challenging them to talk about it. And I think this would be just like sit them down and just get kind of fire some things at them while they're not in the testing and in their head of like so many other things. So I'd like to offer that maybe we bring that to the study group.
Cool. Yeah, and this really is a practice thing, and it's not like there's a right way. We're just sharing some of the ways that we do it, just so you have something to hang your options on as you're getting used to it, or and we're all like, some of the ways that Ellen just translated that, I'm like, oh yeah. So we're just supporting each other here. Jessica.
This is just real quick. I missed the beginning, but I was going to say, I have learned a lot from receiving sessions. And I was thinking, Carolyn did a group session in the imagination group today. And as she was talking, I was like, wow, some of the ways that she explains this, it's like a part of me is like taking notes, because it's some of that like languaging that you learn, some of those expressions, like some of the words I say, optimize, connect, synthesize, harmonize, integrate, like multiple times per session, right? And you pick those things up through other people and how so yeah, it's like getting sessions, observing other people doing sessions, you'll start to pick up the language. Also feel like after mod 3 principles of consciousness, that changed the game for how I was able to communicate my formulas. So that helped a lot. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks. That's a good 2 cents. Okay, well, our third portion of our fabulous program here is Madoc, who's going to talk about how you put a bow on it so that people can remember. And I'm just going to share a little anecdote. Madoc did a session with me 5 years ago, probably, that I still remember because of the way that she summed it up. And just the way she was like, okay, here's what we did. And I still remember that session. It was linking me to the sun, Madoc, and and all of this like identity stuff and awareness and burning off stuff that didn't matter. Anyway, I still remember this years later because of the way that she summarized it. So I will turn it over to her.
Thanks, Robin. It's funny because I mean, I don't remember that session, but yeah, it is beautiful to complete. I wanted to mention a couple of things just about making the formula, about explaining the formula, because I feel like it's integrated, like the way I explain the formulas integrates into how I close a session. So when I do sessions, I don't get very simple links of this to this. I usually get a formula of quite a few things together. So there's I'm telling a story to them as we go through. So, we have an opportunity, and that's a word that gets used by me a lot, an opportunity. And I learned a lot actually from Tracy Clark about how to explain things. I love the way she explains sessions. So doing a class with her and hearing her explain things is great. And she taught me, there were a few key things that I learned from her that I love. One is an opportunity. And we have an opportunity here to balance or to synchronize or to, create or to enable your body to. And she also speaks about not collapsing the formula too much, because if we collapse it, like we're working in a quantum field, so the broader the meaning of the formula is, the more we allow the client's body to take all of the possible meanings. So at some point, I usually explain that to the client. And I usually explain to the client that I'm not diagnosing them. I'm not saying this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong. Like what we're actually doing when we do a session is it's already shifting. Like the moment we name it, the body's already working with that and changing it. So I try to always put it in positive terms instead of like, oh, there's something going on with this and this. It's more like we've got an opportunity here to help synchronize, to help create a new relationship between, to transform this. So I'm always trying to create the languaging that's about change. And definition, one thing Tracy shared that I loved is that definitions are all about what possible opportunities could arise. So things that could change. So a definition is an opportunity to say, and you might notice, or we're helping to change. So if you've got a definition of fear, actually one of the potential outcomes is to shift the client's relationship with fear, to shift the way fear is held in the body. So I found that really helpful when I was trying to find ways. The other thing is that we've all got to find our own languaging about how to talk about each formula. And so, sit with the chart and try to come up with your own talk for each bubble, so that you've got a way of saying and explaining that. Because once you have a really good relationship, then you can start putting them all together, then like that. I love Katie Lynn, that opportunity, that formula you brought, because they can have multiple layers, right? So then we have to try to create a formula. So when I'm talking to the client, I'm saying, we're creating this possibility and a relationship between these things, and we're helping with these different levels of you. And somehow these are all related in your system. And usually over a session, I'll have multiple formulas, because my sessions aren't usually just one formula, two formula. There's usually 4 or 5, 6, I don't know. There's a lot going on. So when I look at the theme as a whole, or the session as a whole, I'm looking for a theme that might have come up. And I've got to say, most of the clients that come to me tend to have more of a spiritual bent. Maybe that's because it gets referred to me. So they are a little bit alternative anyway. So there's a lot of like consciousness balances and shifts in their way of being and relating to the world. And so when I'm summing it up, I'm trying to give them a general overview of what we did. So I'm noticing a theme from your session around, your identity, or I'm noticing a theme around, so I kind of scan over that and have a look. Nowadays, quite a lot of stuff's coming up around ancestral work. So it might be, we're really shifting your relationship to your ancestral patterns. And then these are things that I'm seeing, these are the things that have shifted. And then I'm going to leave them with ways they might observe that in their life, because I want to give them a lead to see the change that's happened. And so part of that can be quite good. And I don't do this with every client, but sometimes I think I should, is we'll often observe a few things at the start of the session. So I'll get them to check into like, how does their head feel? Where's their breath? How's their balance? So I know Tracy Clark's really big on getting people to do a check-in at the beginning and then check again at the end. So it's really beautiful if I can already show them immediately that they've had a change. And just about every client will leave my session saying, I feel lighter, I can breathe easier. I feel a lot more relaxed. So already there's a change. But I'm going to use those definitions that I saw in the session and say, you might notice a difference in your relationship to fear. You might notice a difference in the relationship to your workplace. You may notice a difference in, and I'm going to name some of the specific things that I've seen come up in their session as a theme. And what I often tell my clients too is for them not to, not to hang on to necessarily what I've said as a specific, like a diagnosis like we see with the medical system, but to see that these themes may emerge in their life and that they'll probably see certain things show up differently. And that's what I want them to be looking for, is things that show up differently. And that might surprise them. And then I'm going to give them some suggestions, because I want them to have, that thought of like, oh, I'm going to notice what's a little bit different. The other thing that I've just done recently that is awesome. So I use an online scheduler, and I've just created a follow-up email, and I didn't have this before, but now an email gets sent to them that says, hi, how did it go after the session? Maybe you've noticed some changes already, and what's coming up for you? And I'm, then one, I'm available for you to contact me, but two, I love hearing stories. And so I've actually started getting people replying with, oh, these are the things I've noticed. And in the past, I wouldn't necessarily get that because I wasn't asking for it. But in asking for it, then we hear the differences and the changes. But I think the fine line I feel between explaining a session is, one, not to collapse it too much to give them only one meaning. It's like to keep it as broad as possible, to be able to give them the themes, and yet at the same time balance that with, and here's some things you might see, or here's some changes that might happen, or here's the themes of the relationship. So I stay pretty much as broad as possible. Yeah, does that make sense? Is that helpful?
That is very helpful, and thank you. I'm going to just underline that, yes, giving people something to look for. So, if we do something where, if I connect diaphragm to large intestine, I'm going to tell people you're likely to notice some changes in your digestive system as this processes. And that's one thing people come back a lot. Just today, somebody was like, you told me my digestion was going to be crazy, and it was. Because they can see, if we do an environment, that's one thing that I a lot of times have people, because it's external, just watch and see how this shows up in your workplace, or like, let's see how this shows up with the neighbor, or whatever like that. Because that so often, because it's outside of them, they can see it. So I do like to, I'm going to just double on that. Yeah, give them something to look for. Vanessa.
One of the things that I also do, it's sort of backing onto what you said now, is what I do tell them, so that they don't think that there's something going on with them when they leave, is that the body releases emotions one of two ways, either crying or diarrhea. And so I will tell them that, please, if you're feeling weirdly emotional, please go sit in the bathroom and cry if you don't want anyone to see you, but make sure you let it out. Or you might find yourself running to the toilet for like a day. So it's okay. But what I also tell them to do, because if you have to ask people, and it's something I've become very passionate about, is one of the first things I ask new clients is, do you drink water? Do you know how many people do not drink water? And one of the things that I'll explain to them with regards to water is all the information your body needs to function efficiently is carried on water molecules. So all the information that our body needs to process the session travels on those water molecules. And I got this from when I was doing the body ecology online, that we've been told our body's 70% water. It's not. It's 98.5% water by water molecule. So if they're not drinking water and you're doing a session, that session is not going to be as effective as if they were drinking enough water. So that's just another thing just that I send them with, is those three little things when they leave.
Very, very good
Yeah, and
stuff.
just to add to that, I'll also say, like, as things go along, like if we do a lymph balance, I'll say things like, you want to make sure that you're getting plenty of water to be able to flush this out. You might notice changes in your urinary, in the smell or the color of your urine. You're probably going to be cleansing, but you may not, but you may. And I'll say that same with the intestines. If I do an intestines balance with emotions and I'll say, our body really likes to release things out through the bowels. That's how it works. So you may notice. I'm not telling them this is what you will notice, but you may notice. So don't worry if that happens. Or if you do an immune system balance, hey, you may notice that your body suddenly becomes aware of certain things that it hasn't been fighting appropriately. So you may get a little bit of some symptoms, but it's just your body cleansing. So just be aware of that. The other thing, actually, I've just recently started trying to make people more aware of is take some time to integrate. I think this is, someone mentioned this recently, is one of the things we really don't do in Western society is to take time to integrate. And it's a really important part of doing a session is to make sure that integrates. And so I do ask people to, take some time, take it easy, let this session, make them aware that they'll be working on it for, possibly the next 24 hours, maybe longer. So just, take it easy, notice if you need a little more rest. So that's another thing that I also do.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I always have a time, even actually different formulas will have different timings on them. So like today, there was like one piece, it's like, this is going to take a whole moon cycle. This means this is big and your body needs time to process it fully because it's big stuff. And if we do it too fast, you're going to be like really ungrounded. You're going to feel unwell. Like you're not going to be able to function in society if this cleared immediately kind of thing.
So are you getting that information when you're putting together the formula? Is that where that's coming in? Because I don't know. I don't ever really get that information. I just give people a general.
Yeah, I don't know why or where this habit came through, but the information just comes in. It's like, this is going to be, and I think it helps a lot, like the timing and kind of helping them understand, because it's like, we're doing all of this, but it's going to take a month. And I'll say, like, in a month, you're going to feel a lot different. The sessions I did today, I was like, you're going to feel a lot different in about 2 days, because we're in this kind of eclipse portal. And I've noticed like what's coming up is like, we can shift so much faster because of the astrological alignment. But and I told them, I'm like, don't hang on anything, because you're going to feel really different in a couple days. So like, let it move through you. Yeah. And that, like, knowing it's like, you're going to be processing this, don't like protect yourself, like don't like go out and do something that wigs out your nervous system. Like you are in a accelerated healing state, so just kind of those are things but I guess you don't have to use time, but it comes in for me really clear. So
Vanessa.
With regards to the time thing, what I've found that people that my clients like to hear is because, you know, if you go for a massage or you go for, when you get off the bed, it's done. So the one thing I do tell them is I say the beauty of BodyTalk is the session doesn't stop working when you get off the bed. The session continues to process until I see you again. So whatever the formula is done, so I don't give so if you know, if a time doesn't come for you, then I'll just say it continues to process. And what's happened is I've got clients that, and because I always reschedule my clients before they walk out the door. Because I will check and I'll say, I need to see you again in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5, whatever it is. And I think about 80% of my clients will come for their session and they'll say, you know what, you were right. 3 days ago, I started experiencing this. I've now got a shoulder pain. And you told me that I might start feeling like something could happen just before I see you again. So I'm very glad I'm here today because I felt this 3 days ago and I know that it's going to shift because something happened last time. And you told me that it would continue working and that I might feel, you know, there's something might pop up before I see you again. So that works because then they become aware of it as well. When something does pop up, they go, oh, I'm seeing Vanessa next week. Let me make a note. A lot of my clients make notes and they'll come with all these notes and they'll go, this happened last week and this happened 2 days ago. And they then start understanding that the body is not just processing on the day of the session, but it's processing all the way along. So that for me has been really awesome to see when they come with that, that they understand that it processes slowly.
They're getting
it's
bang for their buck.
like we're teaching people how to have a relationship with their bodies.
Mhm.
Man, pat on the back to all of us.
And that's huge, you know, and that's how we communicate. Like, I think part of explaining the session, it took me a long time to work out how to find my language around explaining sessions. And it's really worth putting that energy into working out your own way of relating to these themes and finding ways of explaining them. But it's so worthwhile because when people really grasp that it's a communication that the body's having, then it gets exciting because they can start realizing what that language is too. So cool.
Katie.
Can I make a request for a future topic?
Mhm.
A few of you mentioned, I think Madoc, maybe Vanessa, I can't remember who all now, but mentioned the like doing little evaluations, like checking in with them before you start the session and then after. And I remember I monitored Mod 1 with Carrie D'Ambrogio, and he talks about that too. But I would love, if any of you do that, I would love, I tried it for the first time last week. I had my first ever just BodyTalk client, like who wasn't there for therapy as well, who I didn't know, who was referred to me by another therapist who wanted to do, like, she was looking for EMDR to do along with her regular therapy, but I had replied to the referral request like, well, I do this other thing that, you know, is actually more complex than EMDR. And she came and she had this like specific sharp pain in her chest that was anxiety related, and that was like why she wanted to see me. And so I just thought, I was like, oh, on a scale of like 1 to 10 of like discomfort or how distracting this sensation is, like, where is it right now before we got on the table? And she's like, that's like a 4 out of 10. And then I checked in with her after we were done. I was like, just curious, where is it at right now? And she's like, I don't feel anything in my chest right now. So that was the first time I'd tried that. But sometimes there's not, like, if a client doesn't have a specific like physical thing, that's a topic I would love to do a booster Zoom on, is how do you do the, oh yeah, well, if you have answers for it now.
So I've done, with Carrie D'Ambrogio, I did orthopedic evaluation. So I've done that, and there are a few. So if you want if we want to make that a topic, I'm also happy to put some input into that, because it's actually there's a little chart that came with the orthopedic evaluation, and there's some very simple ones that you can do that just shows. I mean, for me, the leg raise is one of the ones that is just it blows the client's minds every time, because so if it's a client that's really got nothing physical wrong with them, but they've got emotional stuff, and I will then at the beginning of the session, I will, when they're lying on the plinth, I will use one finger and lift up their leg at the bottom by their ankle. So just relax your leg. I'll lift it up and they'll feel how heavy it is. And then at the end of the session, once I've done the tap out, I will do the same thing using the exact amount. And they can't believe how their leg now lifts like that, where it was like a piece of lead in the beginning. So that one's a very simple one. And there's a few others that I use regularly that I'm happy to share if we add that in as a booster Zoom.
That'd be great.
We can do that. Speaking as the person who makes up the list of topics.
Well, and I just wanted to say too, just as an advertisement for Tracy Clark, I think she actually does a class called, I think, Beyond Practice or Beyond that.
Beyond
Technique
Technique,
or
Art of
something, I think.
Practice. I've been trying to take that class for like a year, but it never works with
Well,
my
and
schedule.
I've got to tell
So,
you, I wish that class had been available when I first started doing BodyTalk, because I think I would have been in practice a lot faster, because although it's not necessarily, you know, there's some limitations to what she can and can't teach in that class because it's so, you know, state dependent, but she's got some great stuff around, you know, taking an intake, attitude, how you explain things, doing evaluations. Like it's really useful as the bones of getting used to talking to clients.
I will add all this to the notes in the follow-up with the recording. I'll see if I can find a link for her next one, which is probably something.
Tracy's also, she's just really great at explaining.
Yeah, she is. She's
great. And so
that
she
opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah,
You have an
she's
opportunity to work with the
my
connection
favorite.
between your beard and your toes. Any other questions, comments, feedback?
Thank you. This has been helpful.
I want a second. Yeah, this is helpful. Like the conversations are very opening and planting seeds.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Good.
I also feel like it would be super interesting to like take a formula and then like each of us have an opportunity to like talk about it, because I feel like we'd all have different ways of explaining a session. You know,
I thought about that and I was like,
formula,
okay,
yeah.
maybe we'll do a part 2.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that could be really fun just to hear how everyone would summarize the sessions.
Mhm.
You know, well, with a little more complication than maybe beard, toes, workplace. Be interesting.
And Diana, did you have?
Well, there's two things. One is I feel like what I have to say about the formula is informed by the person who's on the table. You know what I mean? It's either a psychic connection, or it's everything we've talked about, or it's just, I can just sense that this is the thing that's actually going on versus that, you know, so that does play a role. It would be fun to do one just, you know, like you did with the beard and the toes.
I think that's such a good point, Diana, because it is so true. Like, why do we say certain things in some clients' presence, and then they're like, "Oh my God, that's exactly what I'm working with. That is so
Right.
true. That's totally what I'm going through." So it's amazing how we do hone that skill over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing, and this might be a can of worms, or it might be really simple. Perhaps, so it's talking about body talk again in the bigger sense, and acknowledging that we are now in a new era of body talk. And of course, I'm thinking about this because I'm about to teach a class, and we've got a whole slide on John Veltheim. And John Veltheim has passed. So do we talk about that? Or is that not, especially if you're in the elevator, that's probably not a thing we need to talk about, but it does come up. And like I say, I mean, I talk about it as a new era, you know, building upon the legacy that John Veldheim created, right? So any other thoughts on that?
Well, one is that I was thinking about promoting access, and I was
Right.
like, you know what? I would love if every single one of my clients took access. So I think that, and I don't know if other people agree with me, but I think that's something we can do to promote access, because I'm like, wow, my client, like if my clients knew access, because I teach them all courtesies. The courses I've created, courtesies is the first thing I teach all of them. I'm like, you need to do this every day. This will be so much more effective if you do this. So just
Yeah.
putting that out there to get more juice behind Diana, your class, and also future classes and all of that. That wasn't
Yeah.
really, that was a little off topic, but I was just thinking
Well,
about that.
yeah.
So Diana, I don't always share John Veltheim's name, but I do often say something like, you know, this system was created by a chiropractor and an acupuncturist, you know, or you know, someone who, you know, was very involved with Chinese medicine. So so that it gives it a little bit of credibility. It's not just something that's come out of the ether. So because I think a lot of people who maybe aren't as aware of energy medicine or, you know, this kind of healthcare, but they do know what a chiropractor is, and they do generally know what acupuncture or, you know, Chinese medicine is. So I sometimes anchor it that way without talking necessarily about John Veltheim's story.
That's smart.
Right.
And my language includes clinical practitioners, because while John started it, Vanessa's explanation was on some of my earlier marketing, because that's what BodyTalk was talking about, communication and resynchronization and organizing, which is a great way to explain it, right? But John, the piece I take of him, and I love her use of his personal story, was that he was the director of the Brisbane School of Natural Healing. And so he got to see what worked and what didn't. And he created a system with proven modalities. And then I show him the chart and I say, look, and I explain the priority, you know, that we have a way now to say, gosh, if you're meridians and you need acupuncture, we're going to go there because it's on the chart. Man, if you're dealing with your great grandma's trauma, you know, I talk about the breadth of the chart and talk about John collecting integrative system that looks at the body from multiple perspectives rather than just your GI perspective of your doctor, you know. And so to me, I love honoring him, but I do agree, and now who's here that can't hear this? BodyTalk is politically a little tricky right now. You've got 4 of the top practitioner instructors who've created their own systems. And while I've taken it all, I come back to BodyTalk. Why? Because of the international acceptance, and because I work in a culture that wants peer-reviewed journals. And so I'm showing them, look what we can do with this, and look what we can do with this. So while I may stop with a sentence or two of this amazing acupuncturist, integrative guy, I talked to a guy from Canada who was a chiropractor and physical therapist, and they hate each other. But we blend as BodyTalk practitioners all systems of healing to give a unique session to that person at that point in time based on their priority. So you're right. I mean, those of us who are playing in the echelons of BodyTalk are watching it get a little dicey right now as it switches. There's a lot of people who don't want to be part of BodyTalk because of history and is it moving forward? And so I take it back to practitioners using this system to work miracles, because every single one of you, I've watched you create miracles in my life and in other people's lives. And that's what the system does. And if the organization falls apart, which it might, it's still the power of the system, the power of the chart, and the collective right here in the PNBA.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Well, the thing about BodyTalk, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm like, it's a truly holistic system because it covers everything, including other modalities. I've been thinking about this a lot because I'm like, I want to do just like BodyTalk sessions. I've been doing coaching, like integrated with BodyTalk. And I'm like, and I do like AcuNect and Reiki, and I'm like, no, BodyTalk, because BodyTalk takes me over to AcuNect. It takes me over to Reiki or whatever, you know? So I'm like, no. Truly, to appreciate the system, aside from all of the politics, is truly a holistic system that everything I do comes off of it. Because after I learned priorities, why would I ever go back? Why would you
Right.
go backwards from that? So yeah, just validating the system there. Because it is a little shaky, but it's okay.
And I'm gonna just jump in and just validate too. I was nervous about what was gonna happen with BodyTalk. I mean, even just the last few years when John was so sick. And it is surging. It is really collectively moving forward. I am feeling just in some different encounters that I've had recently, I can see that there were some repairs and some healing that really had to be done from the ground up. That's happening, that people are taking accountability for and taking action on. And we have a matrix, and it's actually, now it seems like it's blooming. Like John cracked open the seed hull by dying and letting us go. And because we're no longer contained by John, and the energy is, I mean, God bless John, but he, that seems to be the result of his passing on, is now people can really take this thing and take it to levels that maybe were a little bit restricted before. And I'm really seeing a lot of power move through. I'm seeing a lot of community. I'm seeing people get together and connect in ways that I hadn't seen, and I've been around for a long time. So I'm really optimistic. I really want to kind of like leave us with that. Yes, there's a lot of change, but it looks good. It looks like we are growing and it's fertile, and I'm excited about it.
I agree.
Yay. Thanks for that.
It's exciting.
So we are about an hour and 20 in, and I want to be mindful of everybody's time. So are there any other comments or questions? I mean, we definitely could talk forever, but I'm gonna just say, yeah, I will look to see where to put evaluations on the list, on the flexible list of topics. And I really like the idea of a part 2, or sort of like going deeper with this. And this is a lush topic. And I actually have some thoughts, so I will get back to you on that, because there's lots to talk about here. So anyone else? You guys are so fantastic and awesome. I appreciate everyone so much.
I want to say one other thing that I love about BodyTalk is that every single one of us have our own special place in the system. And that's because BodyTalk uses all of our individual information as well. So when we go to other systems, we all have our own range of learning, you know, and when we discuss things with clients, we'll all have different ways of saying things based on our own individual learnings and philosophies. And I just think that is so amazing. Like, I think that's one of the just super cool things also about BodyTalk that and so there we all will attract different clients. We're not all just cookie cutter practitioners based on, the one protocol chart. We're all super individual in the way that we present the information and the relationships we have, and the information that we draw upon. And there's so often I've just learned something, and already am being taken to those things in BodyTalk, because it's like, woohoo, here's a quicker way to get to that information. And so it's just such a beautiful relationship we come into, and that will affect how we explain our sessions too, is what we ourselves have learned. So cool.
Well, I feel like no one can follow that one. That's our conclusion. Thank you so much, Madoc. And thank you so much for everyone for coming out tonight. I appreciate you all so very much. And I will send out the replay, and this will go on the forums page, and we'll have this just forever.
Yeah, and I'd like to put Vanessa's stuff you're gonna send like written stuff, right? I'd like to put that on the resources page too, how to
Yeah.
talk.
I love that idea, Dana, so that we can go to it as we need it as individuals too. Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
Right. Cool.
All righty, friends. Well, we're gonna wind it up for tonight. We'll be here next month with the next round, and it might be evaluations actually. Thank you all so very, very much.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
See
Good
some of you on
night.
Saturday.
Night.
Bye.
Goodbye.